Welcome back, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that's all out of bubblegum. Thank you for joining our live show, and for all of our podcast listeners, be sure to check us out so you too can interact directly with the show. This week, we are covering select films released in horror history May 23rd through May 29th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I am JL, and with me tonight are Eugene and Alex.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
We also want to give a shout out. We got Johnny O working board in the back. Thank you, Johnny. And joining us tonight to nerd out on our horror film selections, the writer and director of the supremely amazing award-winning adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, special guest, McClain Lindquist.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure, a big-time pleasure. So awesome that you're able to, we know your schedule is crazy, so glad that you're able to come out and join us for the show. Before we jump into our selections tonight, let's take a look at what is going on in the chat. I see there's Kevin Paul, the man behind some of our amazing work. Thank you, Kevin, for helping. Thank you for helping us out with that. Tina Jones, peekaboo to you too. And Charlie Welch, the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you. James Jones, the man. Thank you for coming in. And there's the Jinju, pleasure to see you. And PhD Tony, the brutalest man of all, there to criticize everything we do. Also, one of our amazing patrons. So we love having you here, dude. And who else we got? We've got Dark Steve.
Commander Darklight.
Oh, see, Dark Steve dropped in, another one of our amazing patrons. And Commander Darklight, another patron. Thank you so much for coming. Commander Darklight's coming in all the way from New Zealand. So hey, I think he's 15 hours. 15 hours? Is he? No, I'm sorry. He's coming from Australia. He's on Tony's side, isn't he? I was asking Johnny, and Johnny knows. But he's coming from Australia, so I know he's waiting. Well, Tony's on one side, Irish is on the other side. So, all right. And Crafty Keela, good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping in. And Chris Durham Music Channel. Fantastic. And he is pre-answering tonight's trivia question with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'm just going to let you know.
Holy shit.
I'm going to let you know, Chris. Unfortunately, that's not it. But thank you so much for coming by.
No.
And he's ahead of the game.
He is. He's trying to be. He's trying to be on top of it. All right. Well, as we said, thank you so much, McClain, for joining us. You have some amazing stuff coming out. We are going to chat with you a little bit later after the show in our After Dark session. So all of our people who are subscribed to us, you'll be able to access that at the end of the month. It's going to be really, really awesome. So we've got movies to talk about, right?
Oh, we're just jumping right into it, huh?
We're going to dive right fucking in.
All right.
Let's go.
Do I get to go first this time?
You get to go first. I wanted you to go first.
It was a joke. Thanks. All right, we're going to start tonight off with a fucking classic, that's for sure. We're going to go, where are we? May 23rd, 1980. See, I said I had my notes up in front of me, but I definitely did not. Yeah, May 23rd, 1980. We're going to talk about The Shining, written by Stephen King, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring, of course, Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers, which is the coolest freaking name ever.
Carruthers.
That's what I said. Gary Nelson, Philip Stone, Joe Turkel. So if you haven't seen this movie and don't know what it's about, I mean, are you even supposed to be here?
All right.
But a family.
Check this out. It sounds pretty cool.
Family heads to a hotel, gets snowed in, and the father, Jack Nicholson, loses his mind completely, slowly, and terrifyingly. I don't know how to explain this movie any different way.
He just tries to kill his family.
Yeah,
it's standard.
Shit got real.
Yeah, shit got real.
Like I said, though, if you haven't seen this,
I do want to make sure. McClain. Oh, that's awesome. We don't. He's not muted, is he? Can we hear him?
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, okay, we can hear you. Okay,
Okay.
no, for a second there, I thought we accidentally left you muted. All right, but obviously,
It'd be okay if you did.
All right,
He just signs the entire podcast.
but definitely being one of the most epic horror films of all time, we definitely wanted to get your take on this. Being a director yourself, this is a huge movie that I know has inspired many of us, and just what your takeaway was on this, going forward as a director.
Yeah, well, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. I mean, not just horror, but movies. And for me, there was a whole mythology as a kid. It came out, I was 4 years old when it came out. And everybody's talking about it, and I knew the references. And so it was, built up in my mind. But then when I did see it, it was, just this incredible movie. I understand why King doesn't like it, because the book, Jack is a good guy and you really care for him, and he's struggling through it, and it's about family and his addiction, alcohol addiction. But the stuff that Kubrick took and then adapted is maybe the greatest adaptation of all time. It's just super inspiring for me. I'm kind of a nerd. I've been to both of the hotels in Estes Park, and then also in Government Camp, Oregon, and stayed and, geeked out. So Kubrick's really important to me. I mean, a lot of directors are influenced by him. Even if you don't really like his movies, you can't really deny that he's incredible. You can just go through some of his movies and they're just stunning. I just love his work. And he was, the word genius gets, thrown around a lot, and it's overused, but he was. He was also a-hole, and I don't like what he did to Shelley. It was awful. That's
127 takes.
Would never do that in a million years. And I know, like, Harvey Keitel walked off of Eyes Wide Shut because he just had him walking in through a door, and on like the 33rd take, he was just like, "I'm out of here. I'm done." But his movies are just beautiful, and I personally took so much from him. When I went into filming my first movie, I did a little research, and I found out that he was very open to having random people, involved with the plot and the movie and the cinematography. And that kind of blew me away. I figured he was really, like, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it. Like the ending of Full Metal Jacket was written by Modine. He was the one that came up with that ending, and Kubrick was like, cool, let's do it. And so Kubrick's, amazing. And The Shining is just forever a part of my life. And whenever it comes on, I just instantly, I'm taken to that world. And I also liked Dr. Sleep as well. So
awesome.
But the cinematography and the layers and just everything about the movie. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I love The Shining. So
definitely, the film is for all of us. I've directed myself. I know I've directed films as well, not just myself. Eugene is also our
JL, get up.
Eugene is also is also a director, and we've all dabbled in filming, in various areas like that. And I know I wanted to kind of like touch with Eugene and myself as well. For me, for Alex as well, get your input as far as it's. The film itself is an inspiration to all of us. For me, it was what struck me was tone, pacing, and color. Was because Kubrick was phenomenal in his use of color, and every single frame was a painting that I think he just think this is the way it's got to be, and it's going to be this way, for it come hell or high water. And while that level of perfectionism, as like we saw with Barry Lyndon. Was which I would argue is one of the greatest films ever made, probably a perfect movie. But what he does with color, what he does with music, the set design and everything surrounding the characters, the environment that he creates for the characters is as much a character in and of itself, integral to the story. And I knew that as a filmmaker, that was one of the things I was going to have to pay attention to. That what's going on, or the background itself, where we're setting everything, is as important because it speaks about our characters. It speaks to their reaction, because Kubrick saw these things, that people react differently in different environments. And if you want to tell a very particular story, you've got to have your settings nailed down. And so he taught me that. What about you, Eugene?
We can talk on and on about his cinematography and art direction, and it's incredible. I mean, I'm not going to say anything new that no one else knows, that no one else hasn't stated. One of the biggest things I like to think of when I think of The Shining is the editing of it. It is beautifully cut, and it has one of the most terrifying cuts I have ever seen in a film. And I saw it was young, and it still shocks me to this day. And it's the cut where he's riding the tricycle, and he comes up to the twins. And you see the twins that are there, and then it cuts, and it's covered in blood, and the twins are dead. And then it cuts back to them standing there. And it's so shocking because there's no lead in there. You kind of already know there's something wrong because there's two twins there. But usually you think it would gradually go up to something, and maybe it'll get weirder and weirder. And no, just boom, blood, dismembered, back to normal. And the first time I saw it, it stuck in my mind. And when I think of horror films, that's one of the very first cuts I think of it as iconic as the cut in Lawrence of Arabia, where you see the zoom in of the match, and then it cuts to the sun when he's out in the desert.
Nice.
Which Quentin Tarantino, Steven Spielberg, a bunch of other people said is one of the best cuts ever in a film. I see that on the same par of it. So, I mean, just incredible pacing. Also, you get the scene in the bathroom. So where he's sitting there, he's talking to the guy in the suit, the butler, whatever, in the bathroom. And the way it flips, what we call the 180. So it gives the audience this, all of a sudden, this uneasiness, because normally when you shoot a scene, you have a character on one side, character on another side, and it stays that way the entire scene. But what he does is he flips back and forth, so they keep switching sides on the screen without them actually moving. So you get this kind of disorientation in the conversation as it turns. It's these edits, these little things that stick out in the movie that put it above so many other films.
Yeah. And Alex is as the resident baby in the house. He is the youngest one on the crew.
That absolutely has an influence on it too, because McClain, like you were saying, it was like such big hype that you knew everything about the movie, even if you haven't seen it. We've seen stuff like that. Well, I've seen stuff like that in my lifetime. But this movie was still. I was born in '90, 10 years later, and I don't think I saw it until I was like 12. So, that many years down the road, and I saw it on TV for the first time. So, like, the hype behind it never really died down, and there's a reason. And the vision of this movie was, like, obviously executed almost flawlessly, especially for the time that this was made. And so I saw it, and since I was young, it was terrifying. And it stuck with me. But like you were saying, McClain, the Dr. Sleep, I feel like that one was like super cool because I got to see it as I was older and like really appreciate it. But it transitions so well from The Shining to Dr. Sleep with even like the types of shots like Eugene was talking about. That stuff sticks out to me, even though I'd seen the first one so young. But the second one made me feel the same way. It was like almost nostalgic watching what they, I think it was Mike Flanagan did with Dr. Sleep. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely from like the start of my life to the end of it, it's been a part of it.
It was an intense.
The end of it. What am I dying?
Oh,
and it was an intense. I mean, obviously, it was a very, very intense film. There was moments in it. I mean, the way Kubrick built tension. When Halloran is trying to make his way back to the hotel because he knows what's going down, and then his struggle to do that, and for it to end the way it ended. And obviously, I mean, this film is 40 freaking years old. So when he pops in, looks around, like has a moment, and then Jack is already there. Boom! It's like you just don't see that coming the first time. I mean, if you know nothing about it, that one catches you off guard because the build up to this point is like, yeah, he's going to be the hero. You can't go through that kind of struggle to get to this point, be the harbinger. Essentially, he was the harbinger because he gave all the warnings and then he left, and then he's like, then he came back and he was kind of like, I got to do this for the kid, and then because the two of them were connected, and then boom, and then Jack is already there and on top of it. So that was, for me, that was Kubrick's way of, even though we're so deep in the film at this point, that was Kubrick's way of saying that you do not know what's going to happen here.
The tempo of this was so off.
Yeah, if you read the book, don't be. I mean, and then boom, then this happens like this. I mean, with this kind of
Right.
jump,
Yeah.
you have no idea what's going to. Well, I mean, how this is going to play out in the end. It's going to be a different ride than you're expecting. I thought that was brilliant, but it, like McClain mentioned, it led to controversy. There was a do I?
Welcome to Weekend Technical Difficulties.
We're good. Oh, no problem.
No.
We can fix it in post. So, but like McClain was mentioning, there was heavy controversy on this, especially after it came out. King had real problems with it. Mandevil in the chat was mentioning that when King first got the call, because at the time he and his wife Tabitha, they were dirt poor. When the call came in, hey, we're going to adapt, The Shining. Steve Kubrick's going to direct, and King was like, bullshit. Like, he didn't believe it. He thought somebody was screwing with him, but eventually it went forward. And King is, I think King at the time was incredibly unhappy with the adaptation. There was bad blood between him and Kubrick for the longest time, but I think he's softened on it in recent years, especially with Dr. Sleep, the Dr. Sleep adaptation. And I think maybe 40 years can soften a guy to something. I'm not sure. Maybe he's just, he's beyond it. But yeah, there was controversy in the film. Not to mention, and we have to mention the documentary Room 237, right? So that documentary about all of the stuff that supposedly is in the film, and I'm certain, and I don't know, I take it with a grain of salt myself. What do you, McClain? What do you think?
Hell no. Hell no. Wow. It's ridiculous. You're taking one of the greatest achievements of mankind ever and reduce it to Stanley Kubrick doing it. Who is incredible. If anybody could pull it off, it would be Stanley. But no, none of that is real. In my opinion, it's a nice doc, though. It's very well done. So,
yeah, because
go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, because it's you never know unless you're the actual filmmaker. It's like what's on purpose, what's on accident, and what is like you're just restricted. So sometimes it's like, yeah, this is a meaningful thing in the background. It's supposed to mean this. Right. And sometimes it was the first face they saw at Dollar General.
Yep. We all know that. Every movie maker knows that. I was commenting online, someone had one of the theories, which I think is incredible, off topic, with Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, with the Band-Aid on Ving Rhames' back. And that's his soul, and it's in the briefcase and all that. The reality is he cut himself shaving, and that shot was supposed to be him looking in the camera, and then they kept it. But your creativity takes you there. And that's what like The Shining does as well. It's full of creative juice, and it's a masterpiece that's cultural. It's like Psycho. People know things from the movie, even they know they haven't seen the movie. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that, even if they don't know the tie-in to the movie. So, and yeah, like you were saying, JL, his set design and all that, and really all of his movies, but especially in The Shining, was incredible, because you see this tiny little hotel, and then it goes inside and it's massive. That hotel in reality could fit in that foyer. That's a very small hotel, and it's, you go inside and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's just, next level stuff. For me, it was very, influential, and we even referenced Kubrick in our set design and multiple times as acting cues as well. So, but yeah, I also agree with Eugene that jump scare, that first jump scare that you get with the pre-vision or post-vision, or, the flashback of the girls being slaughtered, and he's already got you, because he's coming with the Steadicam the first time, that it was really used correctly, in my opinion, with the inventor of it running it as well. But, coming around that corner, and he sets you up for that. And then boom, then that jump cut is insane. And then also when Halloran gets it, that's the first time that you see that was like, okay, this is horror. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen. And
so
you're just right there, and he brings you into his movies, whether you like it or not, and that's maybe his best example of that, of putting you, right here. So
yes. Mandevil was mentioning that, and it just kind of occurred to me. This was an excellent take. So when Jack hits him with the axe, he was sure it was a premonition that Halloran was having that would allow him to avoid the attack, because we had set that up, having premonitions of what was going on, or premonitions of what could happen, and because they both have The Shining, but unfortunately it wasn't. So that was also kind of like a red herring. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, there's like, no, he's dead. We're very, very sorry. And just brutally killed. And obviously there's lots of interpretations. Kubrick, I think that the whole conspiracy theory thing behind it was Kubrick was known for having for basically having personal messages throughout his films. Everything was a statement.
Yes.
Color was a statement. The music was definitely a statement. He was big on his music selections. Like in this, in this one particularly, they talk about his concerns with the relationship between white people and the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And
real, that's real.
Yes, this is real.
That's real. There's so many references of that. If you don't see that,
clues such as the closing photo of Jack and the party at a 4th of July party, or Jack's earlier reference to the Rudyard Kipling poem "White Man's Burden," and just kind of, it's all over the place. And so, because Kubrick was known for this, I think as a matter of fact that there was a calendar, that something wild. There was a calendar in the background of a shot that was so innocuous. It was literally just set dressing. But the calendar was very, very specific, because it was the image on the calendar, dates below and the image above. And that was kind of like, holy shit, if you go in, that means something. Because Kubrick was about this. So I think people just said, well, if it has all this in it, it obviously there could be more things, and people looked for what they wanted to see.
The stretch, a mighty big stretch, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's all the artifacts within the hotel, the Native American rugs, the indigenous everything, and even down to some of the cans in the pantry have American Indian imagery. So it's supposedly on the Indian burial site as well, but
yeah.
So it's not that big of a stretch. I hope people see subtext like that, but that's a movie for me that definitely opened that up, where it's like beyond just what we're seeing on the camera. It's something within you. So.
Perfect. I think we had some
audio. We're getting
background.
The aliens are contacting us. I know you guys have been watching CNN, but there's aliens.
Johnny, I think we can hear you. You might have to mute your mic.
Trying to get in.
Oh, it's so loud. Holy shit. I can. I never did. What? Yeah, no, it was really hard to talk over you. We're talking to the guy in the background. All of us just went delusional at the same time.
Well, that was wild. I don't know who decided to spill all the contents of the kitchen at one time.
So. I think it was maracas. I heard maracas in there.
I was thinking it's like a cartoon when something gets hit and everything in the kitchen goes all at once.
Totally normal. There's a poltergeist. It's gold.
Yeah. It's actually Jail's ghost.
Well, being a we're not going into it. So so obviously a very important film to all of us as filmmakers and as horror fans. I think it's pretty much required viewing for anybody out there. But we also can't get away from touching on the importance of Dr. Sleep. The sequel that King wrote to this story, 30 years later, the grown-up Danny Torrance dealing with his own demons, the same demons as his father dealt with, and then, of course, eventually culminating in a return to the Overlook Hotel, directed by Mike Flanagan, brilliantly directed by Mike Flanagan, who I think struck this gorgeous balance between paying homage to Kubrick and giving King what King would have wanted. Saying, this is what King wants. This is what we got to do. and somehow he found the middle line to go right up there and strike home. Not to mention amazing performances from Ewan McGregor, and everybody in that cast was so amazing. And I think it comes down to it. For me, there was a bit of a nostalgia. For me, because I love The Shining, there was a bit of a nostalgic thing. But I know that there are people who really don't dig The Shining. So, but Dr. Sleep, what did it say? McClain, when you first saw Dr. Sleep, how did that change the relationship with The Shining at all?
Nope. And I'd read the book as well. You know, I can appreciate the book and the movie, and definitely what King did. And then obviously there's stuff you can't do, you know, with the hotel being burnt down and all that. So, you know, but what Flanagan did was incredible. And I really like his work. I haven't seen any of his stuff that I don't like. But no, if anything, it enhanced it for me. But you're right. He walked that line, and it's tough because you're going to have people, and it's Stanley Kubrick. I mean, whoa, you know, so, and Stephen King on top of it, you're dealing with titans, and he did a really good job of balancing both worlds. And I really like the extended. I will only watch his cut, which a lot of times I don't. Surprisingly, I'm not big into the director's cut, but that's one where I don't think anybody should watch anything but his cut, which is like half hour, 45 minutes longer. There's a better pace, and you know, you get more depth to the characters, even the villains, who are really cool. And I just liked everything about it, really. I don't get people that don't, you know, or that do, you know, attack things just because of nostalgia. I do wish they kind of pushed that harder. Like, I don't want Shining Part 2 or anything, but
definitely.
I wish they did tie it in a little bit more, because I think a lot of people kind of got lost that was The Shining Part 2, that this is Danny as an adult. But
I guess if you didn't know, yeah.
Yeah, but and Ewan, he was, that was awesome. He's just a great actor.
Absolutely.
But everybody, it was well cast, and the gaff was really cool, and the effects, I felt, you know, subtle enough, and it didn't feel like it was a CGI fest, even though I'm sure it's probably like 90%, but it was done well, you know. It was done with a cinematic taste, as I forget the gal's name, and she's flying, you know, through the air. That was
Rose the Hat.
Rose, there you go. But you know, that shot, the gimbal in like real time, and then coming into the house, and so he did a lot of that as well, where he used the set design, which I'm really big into set design, as I said, and I thought that was really cool what he did, turning the room, and he'd slide down and everything with the chalkboard and all that. It's just great. It just leads to good storytelling, which is what all good movies are. But I had no complaints with Dr. Sleep at all.
Rebecca Ferguson was amazing in that role.
She was incredible.
I mean, stone cold. And
I don't know about the hat, but
I thought it was that. It was a unique touch, and something that was kind of like, I think it hinted that something was off about this character, because she's an extraordinarily beautiful actress. Yeah. And I look at her, I was just like, wow. I mean, that's just like, you know, she would transfix you. But the way she dressed, especially the hat, kind of puts it off. It's kind of like there's something off here. It's like saying two contrasting things. A woman of this beauty, of this stature, would not wear a hat like that, but she does, and she wears it well. So it's there. I mean, I think there was a hint that there's something.
My
off
thought
about
was
this character.
That's when, you know, kind of like maybe whatever. That's when her peak, and that was whatever 100 years earlier, you know, with those kind of hats with the beaver pelt and all that. I don't know. That's just when you start making your own interpretations of movies. But initially, I thought maybe it was like the magician rabbit type of, you know, candy, which it kind of was with the flowers and all of that, which was also, I don't know if he was trying for this, but it felt like an homage to Frankenstein, you know, when they're by the water there and they're with the flowers and all that, and it's a monster, but which one's the monster? So
definitely.
That was deep, bro. You know what really got me, which is super fucking cliche now that you just made that beautiful homage, But when they
You got to
the
live up
shot
to it. Live
on-
up to it, Alex. Come
the
on.
shot on the elevator, when it was just the picture with just the elevator in it, I guess it was kind of towards the end because you kind of wait the whole time for the elevator.
Oh
scene.
yeah, the reveal.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah.
And so they
definitely.
show the elevator, and it immediately connected everything else that I'd seen in the movie with The Shining. It was like, and then so I mean, it came together really well. I mean, like you said, if you knew what was going on, because if you just saw Doctor Sleep on its own, it could be like a standalone movie if you just didn't think too much into it.
Yep.
And so I think that like when they started pulling stuff from The Shining towards the end, it was like, okay, this is great. I thought it was going to kind of lull off, but then it was like, nope, we'll just pick up from here and end it on an extremely high note.
And I don't know if most people know, but that was Elliot for BT was Jack.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a good actor. He doesn't get his due.
Fucking Henry Thomas.
Yeah, he
As
doesn't get his due.
As like the young Jack Nicholson. For a second there, I mean, there was a couple moments when we first came in, I was like,
Nailed it.
I double taked it. I was like, did they like de-age Nicholson or did they like digitally? Holy shit!
The Irishman.
Oh my
I was
god!
like, holy shit, that's Henry Thomas.
Yeah, he did a
Holy
great
shit,
job.
that's the young kid that's from ET. That's the young kid from Fire in the Sky. Holy fuck!
I'll never forget when I went and saw this movie in theaters because I went by myself, and then I left and I came back and I told you guys about it because it was right when we were starting up the podcast. I was like, "You guys got to go watch this," and you're like, "Oh yeah, we'll get around to it." And I think you guys both saw it before we had talked again. And you're like, "Holy shit! Oh my god!" Yeah, it was great. Back on our episode 1 and 2 days.
Hey.
And I loved it. I think that Flanagan did an amazing job paying tribute to what Kubrick did and what Kubrick had created, and it had the. I would say there's kind of an energy, kind of a I'm finding it difficult to put into words. We've seen it in these new Netflix adaptations of King's work. We've seen it in Gerald's Game, in The Tall Grass.
Right. That was him too, right? He did Gerald's Game, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Flanagan? That was awesome.
And just this, there's kind of a new kind of, I guess, the energy necessary. I guess filmmakers are really taking it seriously now, and coming because mostly King adaptations were not great. Unfortunately, mostly some of them were absolutely like I thought.
Maximum Overdrive. Who does he have to blame for that one?
I wasn't going to mention it. Yeah, I can hear. And because Maximum Overdrive was his one directorial credit, but I think there's some bad there's some bad ones out there, I think, but like Christine is one of my favorites. Pet Sematary was amazing. Cat's Eye was fantastic, but unfortunately some that were just not so good.
Pet Sematary. Did you say Pet Sematary?
Yes, I did.
That was great. Sorry. I'll pay more attention, Doug. I promise.
But I think filmmakers today are taking it more seriously. That they're looking at the author, saying they're paying the respect need be. It's not just going to be we're going to capitalize on Stephen King's success, and it's like no, we're going to treat the source material with respect. We don't need to take liberties with it. We'll change as little as we must. That's why I like because the differences between the book and the film were okay to me. It was like reading reading Marvel comics, and then watching the MCU movies. Yes, there are some slight changes, but they're functional. They work, and they don't detract from the story, which is always was always so important. And I think Mike Flanagan just completely outdid himself with this one. And I think if you do watch them, definitely, I honestly think this should be a double feature. Watch The Shining, and then watch Doctor Sleep right immediately after it to get this huge, massive universal story, which I think is amazing.
Well, what I'm curious about is people may have finally figured out the formula to adapt Stephen King. Like you had a couple early one, obviously Shining and Carrie on it, and then we had like a string of a lot of bad ones. And I'm kind of curious if it's like superhero movies. People try doing superhero movies for so long, and you'll get a good one every once in a while here and there, but most of them are pretty bad until you had like Iron. A lot of them were bad until you had Iron Man, and Iron Man really cracked the formula on how to do a superhero movie. Yeah. And maybe
that's how you do it.
That like that's the balance. And maybe Mike Flanagan is like, no, this is how you adapt King. And other people influence other people in Netflix series and all this other kind of stuff to go, all right, now we figured out how to do it. because Stephen King likes all the new adaptations he has.
Yes. I'm especially looking forward to Lacey's story coming out with Julianne Moore.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Speaking of Julianne Moore, real quick side note, if you haven't watched The Girl in the Window on Netflix, check it out.
Oh, Amy Adams, the new Amy Adams one.
It's a good thriller.
Yeah. I'm looking
It was
I
actually
just
Great casting. Great cast.
really seriously. And it took a trope that's been done before and did it very well this time. It was good.
You kind of remind me of the son. Just a little bit. Are you? I hope that he's here, but
well, I'm
sorry, Alex.
I'm big time looking forward to Lacey's story, also with Julianne Moore. I think it's Julianne Moore and Clive Owen. And Clive Owen ends up, her husband ends up disappearing. She ends up getting involved in this, and Dane DeHaan is in it as the creepy guy that's following her around. So I think it's good. That's going to be really, really good. I can't wait for that because it feels very much like Gerald's Game did. Like was it 1942? Yep, which was the farmer and the farmer murders his wife. Yep, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that I'm getting to see this new kind of wave of respect for these adaptations and doing them solid, so we don't get any more like fucking Sleepwalkers and Graveyard Shift and shit like that.
No, even In the Tall Grass was good.
Yeah.
And the thing with that one is it's like it wasn't even like a particularly like it's not going to stick with me for the rest of my life story, but it was done well and like I enjoyed watching it. And I don't feel like I wasted my time. And so, yeah, no, absolutely. These new ones are pretty good.
Fuck, that movie was creepy as hell. That really was.
Which one?
Oh, right.
In the Tall Grass?
In the Tall Grass. That was just, and of course, I don't want to spoil.
Maybe I stopped thinking about it because it was kind of fucking freaking me out.
I don't want to spoil what happens in it, but, when she wakes up and he's just like, here, eat this.
Yeah.
Like, no.
No.
All right. Well, that brings to, we've talked a lot about The Shining tonight. It's a massive, massive film. And I know I don't think we needed to dive super deep into the film, just like the movie itself. It's not like we need to do a review. Most everybody has seen it. If you have not, strongly recommend it to everybody in our live audience who has not seen it. I'll definitely try to stream it one day, probably do a double feature with Dr. Sleep. But I do want to ask the audience. We want to ask the audience, and that's Alex's one because I jumped the script.
Did you just fucking
I jumped the script. That's my bad.
I was gonna ask the audience.
Fucked up. Alex is gonna ask the audience. So Alex,
I was like, is he really a Hydra?
I'm just gonna sit over here. I'm just gonna sit over here and look like an asshole. Yes, call me on the cabs. I earned it. I earned it. Bring it. I fucked up. It's not the first time we've jumped each other in the script.
No, not at all. Anyways, so I was going to ask the audience, Dr. Sleep, did you think that it improved The Shining? Was it a good addition to the story? I think it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's official.
Okay.
Yes.
It's
certified.
Be sure to let us know, weekinhorror@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the comments below.
And if you disagree, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
I would agree with you, but then I would be wrong too. So
I don't know what sound it makes. I don't know what it's saying. I don't know the sound it makes when it lies.
That's it.
So I have a dislike.
What did they mention?
With stuff like Dr. Sleep in the later books and the Dark Tower that explain what the supernatural stuff was, it takes away from the mystery a little.
Oh, and
okay, so Mandevil's talking about.
That's legit.
Mm-hmm.
They're peeling it back a little bit in the second one.
And it was my bad. It was 1922. 1922 was the.
You're right.
One.
It's the Depression. Yeah, there we go.
Phrasing.
Mandel is saying we didn't mention Ready Player One
for a reason.
That whole sequence. Well, this because it's a horror podcast, and Ready Player One.
That was
movie, but
watching it. That was super cool when that happened. It was like, yeah, okay, I'm there. All right.
Okay, when they walked in, when the movie theater opens up and they walk in, and it's like. Because I saw it the first time I saw it, I was like, "Holy shit!"
It's cultural. It's cultural.
It was like it got real, and then the minute that when H walks into room 2, was going to the blood's gone, and he's like, "Oh," and he manages to grab into a room, and he goes into it, and the door shuts. And it's like,
boom!
Oh shit! And what's fucked up is that there were kids out there who have not read the book, but they saw this thing in theaters the first time. They don't know the significance of that room. And so I love that there was that. There's kind of like all of us horror fans are going, oh, like H is so fucked.
All rooms, all rooms.
I love how, because that was like in the previews or anything like that, and you're like, okay, you got the first race and it's all cool action, action, fun, Steven Spielberg, and they go to the hotel. It's like, oh, oh yeah, this is about to be rough.
It was right. It was super cool.
Okay, so we're gonna jump on to our second film tonight.
Yeah, Jill, what's that one?
Thank you, Alex. Dude, I
We've got May 25th, 2000.
I really apologize, dude.
Off the top of the dome.
But we got released May 25th, 2007. We have the psychological horror film Bug. And directed by William Friedkin, director of The Exorcist, and written by Tracy Letts, based on Bug by Tracy Letts, starring Ashley Judd, Michael Shannon, Lynn Collins, Brian F. O'Byrne, and Harry Connick Jr. in probably one of the best performances I've ever seen him in. And in a nutshell, for those who might not have seen this slightly smaller film than the last one we talked about, the action centers around two individuals, Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon, who wind up together in the same hotel room. Michael Shannon believes that he is being targeted by government conspiracies, and he thinks that there are, implants in his body and the bugs, it's really, really fucking weird. The two of them then descend into what could be madness or could be something real. We are not really certain, but it definitely goes fucking haywire. Shit gets real.
Shit gets real.
Shit gets real. There we go, as Eugene likes to say. A very, very taut and extraordinarily intense little film that, for its budget, I don't think you would expect what this film actually pushes out, but psychologically had a profound effect on me. I don't know about you, McClain.
Yeah, I loved Bug. And you were telling me actually that Billy doesn't consider it a horror movie, and that's fine. He gets to do that because he's William Friedkin, but it's a horror movie. All of his movies are horror movies, in my opinion. And I love all of his movies. He's incredible. He's another really big influence. But Bug is, I think why it works, it's, like a long shot or whatever, a tracking shot. It's only in two rooms, I believe, the entire movie, the bar and the hotel room. So it's like a play, which it's based off of, and you're right there with them, and then their neuroses. You're watching it, and it's done, elegantly, where it's not like, okay, this is in their head or this is real. It bounces around, and it allows you to, just kind of go along with the story rather than trying to solve it. But yeah, it's very intense, and especially when Michael Shannon comes out of the bathroom when the doctor's there, or the psyops guy, however you want to look at it. And he did, I'm pretty certain, unless, obviously but it looked like it was just straight in camera. When he was on the bed doing The Exorcist, it was like he was really doing that. I think that looked like that was just him acting. And if he did, I don't know how many takes they did of that, but that blew out Linda Blair's back, with a brace and all that. But he was violently shaking on the bed, and when they wrap him up, and that's a long shot there too. That's so intense. And I think another part that makes it really intense, that there's all great acting. Ashley Judd's awesome. But Harry Connick Jr., I think, makes this movie. He is, it's just like, it's so believable as his character. I don't know if he grew up with people like this or if he's just like a really great kind of method actor, but it was like, damn, Harry Connick's kind of an asshole. It's like expecting, and I've seen him in other stuff, but you're used to the piano and his Christmas songs, whatever. But he was like, that was so well cast, and he did such a great job in that. And that's one of those moments. He's one of those characters where it's like, is he good or bad, and all of that. But I love all of his movies. But Bug was really understated, and I don't know what the budget was, but didn't seem like there was a lot. But I don't think you can say that it's not a horror movie if there's a room full of tinfoil too. So that's
I think the budget on this bad boy was about $4 million, and it grossed 8.1 back at the box office. And just with the intensity of that, I think that predominantly would go into the set design and obviously the way they shot and how they were able to set it up in order to get the camera angles that they want. In order, I would never. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it reminded me that kind of what he was doing there was really similar to Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon, where it goes from a steady cinematic, well-lit gaff shot to a handheld doc style. And I think he employed that a few times to perfection. And like I said, the long shots that he had as well. But the difference between the handheld and a dollied, I don't know if it's on a dolly, if it was on tripod or whatever, but the cinematic shots versus more of a doc where you felt like you were, a fly on the wall. So that really played into the whole tension of the movie as well. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No. Excellent points.
I don't know how he says it's not a horror film. He says, Freakin said, I know Eugene read this. Freakin said this was a dark romance or a black romance. But this is a horror film, right?
This is 100% a horror film. If you want a dark romance, is Natural Born Killers. That is a dark
There you go.
Okay.
Live with that.
I can agree with that.
This fits into horror. This fits into horror categories, hands down. And because the thing is horror, and I've said it before, it's the largest category. There are more films in horror movies than any other genre out there, because horror can blend into so many different genres. Now, there are certain requirements for it to be a horror movie. For one being like the bad death on it. People die in comedies and action movies and all this other kind of stuff, but the bad death is something like characters don't want to get stabbed to death. They don't want to get eaten alive. They don't want to get all this other kind of stuff. So when you take a film, for example, Alien is a slasher movie in space. Instead of Freddy Krueger or Jason, you have the Xenomorph. People see it more as a science fiction film, but it is horror. Jurassic Park is another horror film. It can be a family-friendly horror film, but it is still a horror film because you have monsters that are chasing after people trying to eat them.
Dude, Sam Jackson's arm fell on Laura Dern.
Yeah.
Okay? Like the bloody stump of his arm fell on Laura Dern. The dude on the Gennaro on the toilet. Okay, I can't think of a worse way to go than bitten in half by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yeah,
that'd be a dope. If I had to fucking go before my time, make it be because I got bitten in half by a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Make it memorable.
And this, the way the film, in its climax, in its third act, the room is covered in tinfoil. These two have done things to themselves under this, they've completely snapped and they're feeding into one another. I mean, this is definitely, I've seen horror films that ended nicer than this one.
I don't know. See, I know.
Don't take the brown acid.
Don't.
Yeah, it's a statement on crystal meth too. I mean, they're on crystal meth, so
the toothless and the ruthless.
Tweakers.
Oh God.
I know. Some people don't want to put themselves in the horror category because it's known as a lesser genre. It's bullshit, but they'll see it as a lesser genre because Sundance and the Academy doesn't like Silence of the Lambs is a psychological thriller, not a horror film.
Oh,
bullshit!
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, Get Out is a thing on society. It's all no. It's okay to be a horror film. Embrace it. People love. You have some of the most diehard fans are horror. Who's a diehard fan of romantic comedies?
Right.
My wife.
Amen.
I can't wait to get.
I'm walking out with a Notting Hill T-shirt on.
It's like, I can't wait to get home and watch The Notebook again.
You're married, Jay. What are you talking about?
I have a very sad existence.
Embrace it. That's all I'm saying. Make a horror film. By all means, it's awesome. Embrace it. You have fans that will see it. They will love it. Just embrace it.
I think that beyond obviously with the physicality that we see in the film, the things that these people do to each other, the creepiness, the actual the claustrophobia of the motel room that they're in, because it quickly becomes this prison that's closing in on them, feeding into their paranoia and the things that we see. But I think what made it ultimately scary for me, and I think it was a personal experience because this hit me on a level, is that I was in a relationship with a person who did suffer from I would say toxic codependency, and there was something about their relationship, something about the way they spoke to each other and how they seemed to feed. It was like a negative feedback loop that just kept perpetuating itself. Then, I give you what you need, you give me what I need, and we just keep going and going and going until, the place is on fire. And so, and that's
spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna tell them what happens, but that struck a personal chord for me.
Did it?
It's dark, and it's about psychosis, and it's about codependency, and it's about drug use, and it's about, it's also cultural, social, political, maybe a little bit as well. I'm assuming the writer of the play had all of those elements because it comes across that way. At least Billy presented it that way. So it's dark, but I don't. It's super dark, but I don't know if the romance. That's fine that it's happening, but that's such a small part of everything. It's more about, like you were saying, the tug of war that goes on between those two characters, especially when she's towards the end where she's answering the question, where she's going down the rabbit hole, and it's like, oh, it's over now because now her life's intertwined with his.
Once she pitches off the edge of it, there's only one direction this can go.
And it's really sad. It's a sad movie, especially the ending. But it's full on horror, though. I mean, it's horrific. The whole movie is hard to watch in a good way. But he's just such a great director. He in his movies, the lighting is always just. I don't know if you guys have seen Sorcerer, but it's all the Rembrandt lighting that he does is just next level. And he co-wrote and directed The Exorcist, so he gets to to call it a dark romance. And it's a dark romance, people.
Compared to The Exorcist, yeah,
right.
You have to be the
Father
Exorcist or better.
Mom, hook up. So.
It was really cool to watch you guys kind of talk through that because JL, you mentioned being in a type of relationship like that. I too was in a relationship where we fed off of each other's negativity till it became a very bad thing, and getting out of that's great.
Obviously, the room didn't wind up on fire, so that's a good thing.
I'm not even going to go into that, but so
that wasn't a no. But continue.
But so seeing it from years and years down the road and looking back on that relationship and that person still being the same way that they were now and me getting out of it, I can look at it from your point of view. And then McClain, you're like, yeah, but it also had these other aspects to it. That's what makes a good movie. Right. You got the people that are going to hold on to that toxic codependence that is just absolutely not something that is healthy for either parties involved. Even if there is a healthy individual, if they pour their heart into the relationship and the other person is extremely toxic and codependent, it can suck that person that's totally not that way into it, and it can become very bad very quickly. But you've also got the other aspects of this that you can look at that make it claustrophobia, something that I got stuck in a tube when I was really little. So I have a problem with real tight spaces still to this day. And so watching this movie made me feel claustrophobic. I was stuck in that room. I was like, get me the fuck out of this room or I'm going to explode. And then you get down from that, and then it brings you up on something else. So having so many different tropes kind of mixed into one, but they play off of each other in such a way that it could really reach out to anybody that's watching it is a very, very cool way to do this movie. It worked out very well.
Is she agoraphobic? Is that the term as well, where she's afraid of
afraid of the outside,
afraid of open spaces?
Yeah, I think the characters. Well, maybe it's not stated, but it feels that way. Where
it feels
doesn't want to leave the room. Phobic. That's for sure.
It felt very much to me as the story progresses. As the story progresses in this one, the environment around them becomes more chaotic, but it becomes I mean, the room doesn't change size, but it begins to feel smaller. Like their world, like they are repeating themselves into their own place. And the world, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and it's just them, and it's just them, and it's just them until eventually, what happens.
And some of that's framing as well. He does that where he's like, that's another Sidney Lumet trick, is to, if you want to create tension, slowly push it in with each.
It's like a longer lens throughout, like this. Everything's
correct.
Closer and
because
closer.
A lot of the other shots were in from the other room or in the bathroom, you could see, but towards the end, they're just like almost extreme close-ups. It's like a spaghetti western or whatever. And the lighting too, I think, is it blue or green? I forget, but
actually, I think like a.
It's the bug killer blue,
like that greenish yellowish.
It was blue.
Makes you feel sick.
Makes you feel very sickly, yes. But Friedkin did that, and we can see that in The Exorcist. The juxtaposition between the rest of the house and in the room, and in the bedroom where the action was taking place, it was almost like walking into a different world. So, and I always was like, it's so weird. Why does because as a young person watching The Exorcist, I was kind of like, why is the room blue? That doesn't make any sense. Why do they have blue lights in this one and normal lights in the rest of the house? But and then of course, having understanding, I was like, I get
and that's
it.
That's another moment when you see Pazuzu when and Reagan breaks free. And there's the layered shot and all the little bit of foreshadowing that is in the movie. And that's another shot where just like, and that movie, I mean, obviously it's like The Shining. That movie is, I don't know. It's the greatest horror movie of all time. So, but
go back to that. Yeah.
But back to Bug.
I would say The Thing, but that's just me.
And The Thing is incredible too. We're talking about Hawk's version, right? No. Carpenter's Thing is a masterpiece.
Rob Odd stuff, and that was just.
We'll make sure to cut that as a soundbite of you saying that his Thing was the masterpiece.
No, that movie is just as important to me as The Exorcist and The Shining as well. The Thing is a classic.
Hey, I'd like to before we get off of this one, I'd like to read a summary written by a fan on IMDb, Jay Sperlin. This is just a clip from it. It says, Angus White lives in a remote hotel in Oklahoma. Her life is what it is. She works at a honky tonk. She has a lesbian friend. They do coke sometimes. She needs a man like she needs a hole in the head.
That's a nice little. That's an elevator pitch.
Oh, true.
That's what that was pitched to Billy in the elevator.
It's actually really well written. It goes on
for
a long time.
He's nailing it. So it's true.
Well, that's what struck me on this one was just the nature of their relationship, because there is a level of ambiguity that plays with it. These are unreliable narrators. They each suffer from their own problems, and each one of them feels that they can heal the other or find, fill a void with the other one, and it just descends into absolute madness. And watching people self-destruct is always very difficult to watch. And I'll say that anybody who has been through something or touched on a relationship like this, it can be tough. It's like and I may show this one sometime, I may not. Some movies are difficult for specific people. I know this one had me kind of cringy at a couple of things, just kind of like, and it wasn't just the physical violence. It's just a matter of, because once you've been there and once you've experienced it, you could put yourself in those characters' shoes more readily, and that makes it all the more terrifying. It's like, because you can actually say like, I can fathom how he can get to that point. I really do.
You would know how you would react, but that's what makes it even more cringy, is that that way.
If the brakes came off, I can see how we can get from point A to point chaos. So, which I think rings true. I mean, this one if you don't have the stomach, I don't recommend it. But if you do, definitely give it a swing, because the performances are outstanding.
Yes.
Watch
it.
Holy shit.
Yes.
I never would have thought Ashley, if I had not seen The Passion of Darkly Noon, I never would have thought Ashley Judd was capable of this level of intensity.
She was phenomenal.
She is great.
Amazing.
She was great. Totally great.
So underappreciated, but man, whoo.
I think that's Harvey Weinstein and all that bullshit, So she was one that was caught up in that early. She wouldn't play, and they ruined her career. she's a hell of an actor. That movie this movie Bug showcases her chops, and you're just right there with her. You're not thinking about the Judds. She nails it. She's a really good actor.
Yeah,
well, we talked quite a bit about obviously William Friedkin, who directed this one, and he's a major director. We absolutely love with a body of work that's just stellar. But I want to ask the audience, what is your favorite William Friedkin film? Because he's directed many, and obviously The Exorcist being one of the most mainstream, well-known ones. But we'd love to hear which one you like, because maybe it's one of his other ones. Maybe this one, maybe something else. Let us know in the comments below, or hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Send us those emails, because Alex loves to read them because he has nothing better to do.
Yeah, okay. Well, it used to be funny, and now it's like
now it's just sad.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
I have so much less time than me.
I need human contact.
It's so not true. Like, my wife's about to give birth in like 2 weeks, maybe tops. Like,
congratulations.
You need human contact that is something other than kids.
Other than Tiny, I'm the only guy. I have fucking 3 daughters with the 4th on the way, and my wife and 2 sisters and my mom. And like, I get to hang out with my dad. Like, that's cool. But we just sit there and we're like, man, we're fucking outnumbered. And it's See, how did that all stem from sending me an email? Anyways, email me at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
Awesome. Oh man. Okay, Eugene, what do we have up next?
All right, we got this little gem. So we got like an iconic horror, and then we get like something that's real and intense, and then we're gonna shift gears completely.
Fuck yeah.
We have released May 29th, 1981. Dead and Buried. It was directed by Gary Sherman, and it stars James Fartini.
Sure.
James
Fartini.
James Fartini. Everybody knows him.
Sounds like a delicious Italian dish right there. But
James Fartini.
A Fartini.
Melody Anderson. See, now I'm going to start getting hungry. And Melanie Anderson, Jack Alberson, and Dennis Redfield, and Nancy Locke with Robert Englund.
Ding, ding, ding. Is that cool? Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. And,
he's great in it. He's really good in it. Creepy.
Oh. And basically, in a nutshell, you have a group of people start to realize that the Undertaker family, is actually reanimating corpse to create a zombie army.
Should I go in this? Man,
shit gets real.
So it's true. I saw this probably about 10 years ago for the first time, and I was loving it from the start. Everything about it, the New England setting, which I believe they shot that in Northern California, but whatever. The mortician aspect as well, it was really fun. And but then the second twist, I don't know if we're gonna reveal everything for everybody, was just, and that was a lot of fun. And like everybody, it was well cast, and just, I don't want to say atmospheric, but it's just a solid, indie kind of B horror movie from the 80s, and I would definitely suggest checking it out. It's cool, and the opening scene is really fun too. When you can incorporate the camera into your film, it lends to some cool transition shots and some fun editing. But that's a fun twist there at the beginning where you're like, oh, okay, here we go. And you're with the main character. I don't know if that's Mr. Fartini or whatever, but he's great. You really, the sheriff, you're with him, and it's like, yeah, I'm totally with this. And it feels like a Stephen King story, and being set in New England, that's kind of hard to avoid that. But I really enjoyed it, and the practical work too. What was fun. I don't know who did the effects, but really cool stuff. Definitely check it out.
It was Stan Winston.
Oh, Winston did that? Oh,
yeah.
No shit, man, right? He's pretty cool. He's done some good stuff.
He's all right.
You might want to Google him, Stan Winston.
He's done 1 or 2 good movies, you know. Just that's about it.
Oh, sorry.
No, but seriously, you start a movie off the way that I don't know how much we're going to reveal here, but
just don't reveal the ending. Just let's not reveal the ending.
First of all, to start it off, New England in itself is a horror. You could just set a camera in New England, and that's a horror movie. No, love to the fans in the East Coast, but I hate the East Coast, the Northeast Coast. So that's terrifying. And then somebody gets surrounded.
Click. We just lost Maine, Boston, Connecticut. No big deal.
People. Yeah, no. You could like skip across Rhode Island in 10 minutes. But,
shout out to my peeps in Rhode Island. I got a lot of friends in Rhode Island.
Do you really? Yeah. You know everybody?
You meet most of them. Rhode Island does not mess around. I'm in a band and we tour and we hit Rhode Island, and Rhode Island does not mess around. I
wouldn't talk shit to Rhode Island's face, that's for sure. But
but you're right. The setting, you put that in the Northeast, especially in New England and in Maine, people are either really nice, come on into my house, or get off my lawn and the people that you do meet, they're all kind of off. I mean, I love New England, but they're off.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like back to the Puritans or something.
It's weird. It's like they're like
Pilgrim blood or something, but
they're like hardworking people, but they're like, fuck off. Yeah, no.
It's a whole other vibe there. It's like, being the West for us, when you go East Coast, they're just like, what do you want? What do you want? And it's like, whoa. Yeah, I want to look at the menu.
I just want fish and chips.
I'm hungry. Leave me alone. I didn't study for this test.
Came here for the clouder and you got fucked up. So,
but they do nail. I doubt probably any of those actors are from New England, but they hit it. That whole aesthetic. It's like I said. I'm pretty certain it was filmed in California, but doesn't feel that way at all.
No,
at all.
No, they got it.
So,
yeah, and then you get into a deal where somebody gets beaten and set on fire right away. You know it's going to be good.
Right. Right from this jump, you're like, okay.
No, but this film was seriously,
it
was so underappreciated, and that was the thing that like this is one of those ones when I started getting into kind of, I guess you could say like indie or underground horror movies that I came across pretty early, and it was like, wow, nobody had ever known what I was talking about, so I always looked like a weirdo. I was like, that one movie, and so I wish it would have gotten more traction. I feel like it could probably start making some rounds now and even still hold up to what I remember it as.
Yeah, it's unsung, and it's on most of the streaming sites. People should definitely find it. It should be one of those kind of midnight movies. It's not within that kind of circuit, but that movie like that, for me, at least my aesthetic with, a lot of the psychological elements, and then also personally in my day job, I work at a funeral home, so that was fun with that whole element of the movie where it's like, okay.
How far are we into this stream right now? We're like an hour and 20 minutes.
No, almost
a little over an hour.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned that your day job is working at a fucking funeral home.
I will bury you.
By the way, I do apologize. My internet apparently just like shit the bed there for a moment, and I vanished like mid-sentence.
Listen, just because you think of me as just the stand-in guy, we can run this without you too.
Yeah, Alex nailed it, dude. We don't even, if you want to just check out, it's cool. Alex has got
we finished their thought. It was okay.
We just rolled right with it.
They're all grown up.
We only talked about you.
No, this thing would crash and burn if you had me run this thing. Anyways.
I think it did. This is the definition of coming in hot.
Well, definitely. What I was about to say is it did feel very King-like. Felt like kind of a mix between King and Lovecraft. I definitely would have gone Lovecraftian with this one. The sense of the obviously New England areas where Lovecraft grew up in Rhode Island. Throughout the entire film, I got vibes of Shadow over Innsmouth, as though a member of the kind of like, as a matter of fact, there was a film that came out I think in 2000. 2006, I think, called Cthulhu, which was also a take on Shadow over Innsmouth about a man who comes home to the town that he left and winds up. There you go. See.
Hold on. Let's get this rolling. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, what were you saying?
There we go.
He hasn't even seen it.
There we go.
It's literally in there, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, I got that sensation quite a bit. Just the Shadow over Innsmouth is one of my favorite ones.
Why is there anytime there's videos that are like Cthulhu behind clouds or like Cthulhu-esque, it's always just I immediately picture the Northeast Coast.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's where he lives.
That's where he lives. You write what
No,
you know.
even like anything that's
He lives in the Boston Bay,
like
the harbor. He's in the harbor.
He's in the harbor. He forgot where he lost his khakis. We don't know if
he never left the house because he couldn't find his khakis.
We don't know if he's walking outside without pants or.
But yeah, I absolutely I adored this movie because I mean it was a throwback for me. It felt like that was the inspiration for this, and I love the story. And following the cop around as he's going through this the sheriff is going through this investigation, the stuff that's going on that kind of. Is there what's the grand conspiracy? Then reveal the big conspiracy, then the big twist, and then the second twist, like you mentioned, which we won't spoil here. But
the old dick twist.
But and it got me because it feels very much. Obviously, the viewer, the audience member knows that something is going on because you see these moments that the sheriff is unaware of. But as the sheriff is uncovering more and more and more, you think it's going to wind up in a particular place, and it does not. And that's what I dug about this one is it was completely unexpected the first time that I saw this. And not to mention, you get to see a young Robert Englund, you get to see a young Barry Corbin, you get to see, holy shit, a friend of mine, Glenn Morshower, in like one of the youngest roles I've ever seen him in because he actually had a full head of hair. He had hair and he had like a varsity jacket on from the high school, and I'm like, holy shit. But yeah, it was an absolute blast. Writing was solid, acting was solid, especially at the big twist. I didn't think I actually lost it. I don't want to mispronounce his name because now all I can hear is Ferrantino, James Ferrantino's James Ferrantino's reaction in the big thing. Because I was about to say his name, and all I could hear was
Fartino.
Fartino. And I'm like,
Fartini.
And I just know he's going to hear it, and he's going to come and punch me in the face.
Jesus.
It's like 3 years later, he shows up on your doorstep.
That guy was in the fucking mafia. You're going to open your door one day. There's going to be a 73-year-old fucking mafia man there, and he's like, Fartini sends his regards. And
Fartini!
Awesome. But yeah, there and the big thing I dig it was I find a beauty in a sense of cosmic dread. Cosmic dread is so difficult to, and while I say cosmic dread, I mean I don't mean like from outer space. Although Lovecraft, pretty much invented the idea of cosmic dread, the idea of things from outer space coming here, things larger than us, and things we can't understand. But I also entail cosmic dread, or I also look at cosmic dread as an overarching sense over the entire film. That there is an uneasiness, an unsteadiness, that something is very, very wrong in just beyond the vanishing point, and it's always there. Like I would say, akin to the Taos hum. If you were able to pick that up, it's there in everything you do. Sometimes you can put it in the background. Sometimes it's right in your face, and you're like, it drives you crazy. I love that, and it's so fucking hard for directors to pull this off because I've seen so many try to do it. And then wind up focusing way too much on the environment, way too much on sound, way too much on lighting, or way too much on acting to try and sell it. We're all uneasy, we do like that. But to strike that balance is one of the toughest things I've ever seen. And the way Gary Sherman pulls it off, absolutely fucking brilliant.
It's excellent pacing.
Yes,
it's a great movie. I don't have any complaints about it, and it's fun that the time the early '80s was a little heady. But there's a lot of good movies that were made around that period. Obviously, you just look at this.
I like this one. It didn't feel like it was trying, although it is classified as a slasher. I don't think this was competing. Yeah, I don't think this was competing. In my opinion, I don't think this was competing with Friday the 13th or Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Burning or any of that stuff. I really don't. I think this was misgenred.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And it's probably they would probably say it's a slasher during that time period just to help sell tickets on it,
okay.
just to get that because they were so hot. But no, there's nothing slasher about it.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so, well, case closed. That's it.
Nothing slasher about it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not even the kills are slasher-esque that I can remember.
No, I wouldn't even say that. Yeah.
But I think you're probably right. It was a marketing ploy because slashers were massive that year, right? So,
and I have to, and even if obviously, what I love the effects of it, the work of Stan Winston, and I think the film gets so little fanfare. I don't know unless you're a diehard with Stan Winston fan. Most people probably don't know that he worked on this movie.
I didn't, obviously, but I remembered it being top-notch effects. But, I didn't know it was Stan. But yeah, Stan's one of my favorites. Obviously, it's not hard to like his stuff. It's super cool. So, there's just people that know monsters, and he's one of them. I don't know if you know, his face was what they used for the Monster Squad, Wolfman. That was Stan's face. So
I could totally see that. Yeah,
I didn't know
look
that.
at it. Look at it. Oh yeah, that's Stan.
Now it makes sense.
Which is rad. As you know, the monster maker. That's kind of the creme de la creme is the Wolfman. So
yeah, oh man,
everybody has a cool transition.
It's been 13 years since he passed away.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Wild.
He was way too young. He only got the one movie, right, with Pumpkinhead. So, sucks.
Yeah. And God, Pumpkinhead was good. One of my favorites.
His legacy, though, the movies that he worked on, you mentioned Jurassic Park and others. It's,
directors he's worked with. He's worked with Tim Burton, James Cameron, John Carpenter, Jon Favreau, Frank Marshall, Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, and the list just keeps going
on and on. And none of it's ever hokey. You can't point to one of his pieces of work and be like, "Oh, that didn't work." Especially Pumpkinhead, which he actually wasn't involved with a lot of the Pumpkinhead creation, but that's such a cool.
I'd love it. I still dig that one, and I honestly, I got to throw it out there. Probably one of Lance Henriksen's best performances.
Yeah, it's very emotional.
It was range. I was kind of like, there's an arc here for this guy, and it was like because normally Lance Henriksen, he's a character actor. He does his thing. He was Bishop. He has he's more often the plot jeep than he is servicing the plot. And I saw this one and his interactions with his son, and of course after his what happens to his kid, and then his interactions with the teenagers and the locals around the area. Then going through the arc of I want vengeance to what have I done? The witch was so good in her house and all that. The gaff for all of that, and also the hillbilly house, the gaff, and that was so cool. And the pumpkin patch too was great. Definitely
great set design and gaff, and there's some really cool cinematography, some camera moves within that movie as well. It is unsung. A lot like Dead and Buried, it's just people that were into horror, my friends and I, we knew of it because it was this new creature where you didn't get a lot of new creatures. But the 80s, once again, produced a number. Alien was 79, but then you had Pumpkinhead and you had the Cenobites in 87 and all of that. So it was really cool to see these new monsters come forth, and they kind of had their grip, if you will, in that culture of 1980, especially the Cenobites. But yeah, Dead and Buried, it's unfortunate that it's not one of those movies that's like, oh yeah, everybody knows that B movie. Maybe it was just mislabeled and it was that simple. I don't know any of the history behind it, but whenever I see that, I've watched that. I'll punch that in. I've watched that movie so many times. It never gets old.
I'm definitely gonna have to stream that one in our Discord channel. I want other people to see it because not. I mean, I when I put this up, that when we talked about it, I had people talk to me or message me on our Discord server when I because at the end of every episode we talk about the next ones we're going to talk about. When I mentioned Dead and Buried, people were like, "What is that?" It's like never people like I think only 2 people I think said, "Oh, you're going to talk about this one," and everyone else is kind of like, "I've never even heard of it," and it was wild because I saw it for the first time a couple years, or it was a few years back. I think it was in 2017. I saw it for the first time because I just happened to come across it, and I remembered it because that cover, as you can see, as our live audience can see the poster. I remember seeing that on a VHS case at Blockbuster, and always wondering what is this movie? Because I mean, come on, who doesn't have that memory as a kid going through Blockbuster? I'm going to go to the horror section.
The Company of Wolves was mine. The Company of Wolves, which I watched, a few years back. But that was one with the mouth coming out, the kind of Rick Baker. But that was one where it's like, I wonder what this movie's like. And Angela Lansbury was in it. I was like, what? Nah.
And then I think Monkey Shines was another one.
Monkey Shines, yeah, that's another. That's totally unsung.
Slapping monkey with the straight razor. It was like, holy shit. And I think the only other one was Evil Dead 2, because it was the skull with the eyes in it. And I was kind of like, that's not normal. As a kid, you're kind of like, what the hell? And
that might be the greatest poster of all time. And that's also maybe the best movie of all time, too.
Man, you knew Blockbuster at a different time than I did. That's crazy.
Yeah, I knew before Blockbuster. I knew when it was all independent mom and pops, and I remember Blockbuster coming in. They pushed all of them out, and then Hollywood Videos pushed them out, type of thing. But yeah, it was nice back in the day when it was mom and pop.
I used to live in the middle of nowhere up north in Minnesota, so we had a lot of mom and pop shops. But it was just probably a decade later when I was looking at movies.
What is it? Is there one Blockbuster left?
I think that one actually just got shut down.
Oh, did it?
I think it just went down. Yeah.
It must have got shut down like this week.
It was. I mean, it was pretty recent, but it was definitely a story in the news. I got a little notification on my phone from Bing. It was like, "Hey, Blockbuster's gone."
You can see the pandemic, is going to take a lot of stuff, and that was such a niche thing. It was strictly nostalgia. That's all that's going on there.
You know what I was going to say earlier? I want a copy of The Shining and a copy of Dr. Sleep on VHS with a little TV, so I can sit in a room by myself with a bowl of popcorn and watch those.
Got The Shining right over here on VHS.
Really? I just Googled it. I don't see it. As I think the most recent I have is March 16, 2021. No, March 31st, world's largest blockbuster store, the world's last blockbuster store, more popular after the Netflix documentary on it.
There was a whole thing on how it was getting shut down.
They had
where'd you get your information from, huh?
The fucking internet, which is just all bullshit anyway, so I suppose.
If you read it on the internet, then it's true.
There was 2 for a long period of time.
Yeah, one in Alaska.
One of them shut down.
Yeah, there's one in Oregon.
Yeah, the one in Oregon
there was one in Alaska, but
in Alaska, and so I think one of the 2 of them shut down because the last Blockbuster, they have a Twitter account. It's hilarious if you ever are on Twitter and you're bored because they just talk about like, hey, a customer pulled up in the parking lot. We're so excited. Oh no, they're just divorced parents passing their kids back and forth.
Oh man. Deal.
Yeah,
I feel like JL's diving into this pretty deep.
I did because that broke my heart when you said that it had closed.
I'm sorry,
and I had to look, and I'm not seeing anything on it. All I see is they have.
Listen, you jumped my lines earlier. I had to fuck with you a little bit.
Sandy Harding, who has been running it since 2004, says he has no intention of closing the store. It continued to operate without it didn't lay off staff during COVID-19. It hosted sleepovers via Airbnb in September. A local brewery released a dark ale called The Last Blockbuster, and then there was the documentary in 2020. So yeah, I think it's still open.
You heard it here first, people.
Listen, I've been wrong every day of my life, so it could be true.
I want to rent out that Blockbuster. That's what I want to do because you can rent it out and you can stay there and you can watch any movie that's on the shelf.
That would be cool.
Why are we not making this a Patreon only content?
Let's do it.
Just us and Blockbuster on like a bed watching a
Hell
movie. Some popcorn and stuff. Oh, that would be awesome though. That would be awesome. But we did mention some Stan Winston, who's done just some iconic stuff. We're talking Jurassic Park and Aliens and
The
Terminator 2, and just this whole list. What I actually want to ask the audience is, what is your favorite work by Stan Winston? Like I said, so many iconic stuff. What is your favorite work by Stan Winston?
The
So
Lego
comment
movie.
below or email us at weekinhorror@gmail.com. And I'm actually curious, what is y'all's favorite work of Stan Winston?
Oh,
Yeah.
It's hard not to do the T-Rex. I mean, that's just all of the stuff that they did in Jurassic Park was just next level, even just the practical. And then obviously Steven pushed it even further. But with the visual effects that still hold up, it's crazy.
they do. They really
That
do.
movie could have
really
movie
do.
could have destroyed him. He put that out the same year that he put out Schindler's List. Think about that. Those movies came out the same year, but both those movies could have ended him. But yeah, it's hard not to pick that. But also the Queen and Aliens is like.
I was gonna say Aliens. It's
Yeah.
Aliens for me. Because the first Alien, obviously, Eugene mentioned it was slasher space, whereas this one was more of a horror sci-fi action film. The Queen was absolutely astounding when Ripley's there and she goes to the egg chamber, realizes where she's at, and then she looks up and that bitch is just like, holy shit! But I do
When she rips the sack, that's like one of my favorite.
And all the fluids are coming out. Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah, that Aliens was, as like Fangoria and all the monster magazines. They were building that up so much, and I was so into that. So yeah, that was massively influential as well. Aliens, one of the best movies ever made. But Aliens is a really, really cool movie, awesome movie, love it. But yeah, the Queen. That's tough. The Queen and the T-Rex, but Pumpkinhead. But he didn't really do Pumpkinhead. So he also did the Dog and the Thing, which he doesn't. I don't think he's credited.
I think that was the only part of it that he helped Rob on.
Yep.
Just the dog. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the dog sequence. Was the dog mutation sequence. Everything else in that film was all Rob.
And that's so gross. That dog sequence is so gross.
Tentacles are all coming out and just.
I don't know if it's the dog aspect of it or whatever, because it's just that strikes a nerve. But
there's that moment when the head splits open and the skull falls out.
Mm-hmm.
That gets me every time. So
I mean, like we said, that's just such an incredible movie. That, as well as The Shining, were both panned and didn't make any money. I mean, The Shining was not well received, and it got nothing but bad reviews, basically. And then The Thing, I think it was released the same day as E.T.
Yeah.
Well, E.T. is a pretty good movie. It's an incredible movie.
Wholesome alien, not so wholesome alien.
But yeah, that got panned as well. And then, the Turner networks or whatever of the world. And then we saw it as kids. And then, it is what it is because it's one of the greatest movies of all time. Doesn't matter what happened when it came out. They'll be watching that movie in 100 years from now. And Stan's fingers are all over that. Rob obviously did the rest. He was like 19 years old or something when he did that. Yeah. But incredible. But yeah, I'd be interested to see, because he's done so much, just such cool work over the years. And my favorite band is Tool. And Adam Jones, the guitarist, got his start with Stan. He worked on Jurassic Park and Terminator 2 and Predator 2. And then he started Tool. And Stan was like, "Good luck. I'll see you in a couple of weeks." And
now he's worth like $50 million. So
weird how that works.
Yeah, I love Tool.
Band, by the way.
When Tool, so their videos and all that, which Adam does, and he's a big influence on me in my directorial style, because it's like you have Carpenter-esque stuff and Clive Barker type stuff, but his videos. It feels like Stan Winston. His fingertips are all over it. So, but yeah, Stan's rad. Rest in peace. That's really sad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, rest in
really
peace.
Sad.
All right, Alex, you've got our last one for the night.
I sure do. We're already here. Wow, we arrived here pretty quickly. We're going to talk about May 29, 2009, a movie called Drag Me to Hell, written by Sam and Ivan Raimi, I believe. Directed by Sam Raimi, as always.
Saw it the day it came out. Woo!
Nice.
I'm not that guy, but I was excited that he was back in the genre, so I was there.
Hell yeah.
I was not disappointed. Sorry, I jumped.
Okay.
I'm excited. Can you tell?
Yes. This one's starring Allison. See, Lohman, Justin Long, Laura Raver, Dilip Rao, David Paymer.
You got it.
Adriana Barza, and I'm not even going to attempt those. But so.
Fartini.
Yeah, I'm not going to Fartini these guys' last name. Bojana Novakiv. Yeah. Anyways, so
great casting.
Seriously, you got a loan officer who is trying to make an impression at her job, and an old woman who is trying to get the third home loan extension situation. You know, everybody deals with that on a day-to-day, and they bump into each other, and the old woman, essentially after being denied, says, "I'm going to curse you," and so this poor fucking loan officer gets cursed, hallucinates, and shit gets fucking real.
Shit gets real in all these movies, right?
It really does.
It really does.
It's kind of an inside joke.
I've got to make the shit gets real T-shirt for Weekend
seriously,
Horror.
Yes.
I've got to make it
real.
You've got a 2009 fucking Justin Long, and Allison Lohman is just fantastic in this. But the whole like the whole thing started out. I hadn't actually seen this honestly with you guys until you posted this. But you look at the beginning of it and you're like, oh my god, it's gonna be like another one of these kind of horror movies, and then it turns out to be pretty good.
It was excellent. I loved it, just as McClain mentioned, his return to form, and it was just I was blown away because it'd been so long, and I know that you were first in. I mean, you were there premiere.
Yep, and Army of Darkness. Yeah, he hits all the tropes and all of the things that he invented. All the classic horror tropes as well are there. It's just such a fun movie. Like Alex was saying, it kind of comes off like it might be this kind of like rom-com, or then it's that of that period there were a lot of movies, and some of them are decent, but it was more about the age of the cast members, and that was the demographic that they were going for. That's not this movie. It just so happens that they're younger people, and Justin Long was really, really good in it as well. And she was incredible. Like I said, it's really well cast and great acting, but he brought it back. And there's some new twists, if you will, but he always goes back to the eyeball in the mouth. I think that's like in his writer, like whatever movie he's going to do, if it's Titanic, it's like, okay, when does the eyeball go in the mouth? So
many things in the mouth, and which is also cool. I mean, it's totally off subject. It's just a brief digression, but it was nice to see Fede Alvarez also do that with the vomit in the mouth in the remake, or reboot.
I guess reboot.
Wow, are you okay?
I think he called it a continuation of the story, but yeah, to see that in the 2013 Evil Dead,
which was incredible. That was a great movie, and anybody that dislikes that movie.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
You're just wrong.
That's a great movie, and it's super cool that they were involved with it, and I love it that there's a new generation. I saw that opening night too.
It was cool as hell because we found out that Ivan and Sam had actually written this before the Spider-Man trilogy, and then of course Sam Raimi, obviously Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and he's got this specific style of storytelling that I absolutely adore, and of course shooting his films, which is just great. And then he goes and does the studio picture of Spider-Man, and then we get a trilogy out of that. That's a long fucking time to not do the stuff that kind of calls to you. So diving back into, in Drag Me to Hell was very much diving back into like the Raimi verse and the idea of like, Deadites, the Necronomicon. But this is like another aspect, the Lamia and that stuff. Yet the Lamia acts very much like a fucking Deadite It's like a really powerful one. when they when they're in the seance and they're holding hands and the fucking goat. So put it in the goat. But I mean, I love seeing it get back to it, and it felt like it was just like it felt familiar, and it seemed like Sam was really kind of just letting himself go. Because it was just it's been bubbling in his head for so long, and it just explodes all over the screen. It's like, we've got to do this now, and it was just a huge release. And Allison and Justin were amazing together. Their chemistry was amazing, and and I don't want to mess up her name either, so I'm actually going to like read it to make sure, because Lorna Raver as Mrs. Ganoush.
Freaky!
Wow,
freaky!
And like, from the moment she's sitting there coughing, like, I was like, oh, come on, dude. To hand in the mouth, vomit in the mouth, all just it was the embalming fluid. The embalming fluid. Like, fucking God. It's just, not to mention, just the most embarrassing if you walked into a fucking wake and did that.
That's not realistic.
Hold on, we have a professional.
Hang on a second. No, she was, but they were gypsies. Mm-hmm. Was that embalming fluid or was that like bile?
It's meant to be embalming fluid, but she probably wouldn't. As a gypsy, she probably wouldn't be embalmed. But for me, whenever there's stuff like that within movies, it never pulls me out of the moment, because I don't think it should be realistic. I think it should look right. And you think of like the Italians, where it was such their blood is like day glow and very pretty and all that. It's just like, it should be artistic. I know that's warped, and my movies are kind of like that too.
So where you work in that industry. Dead Alive. That scene is not realistic.
That's another one of my favorites as well. That was an underground movie, which probably does have, where people do know that, and then obviously he went on to do some decent movies afterwards. But
I think there were a few good ones. I think so.
Yeah. There's
something about some little guys and some jewelry.
Some munchkins. It's full of munchkins and dragons and shit.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Check it out.
Wow. NA says "Drag Me to Hell" is forgettable. But then again, and then again, NA has very, very specific taste when it comes to horror. Because it's my mission to find horror movies that he likes. Because he'll come in and join our watch parties on Discord, but he's kind of like, I'll be like, what'd you think? Did you like? He's like, it was all right.
What's his aesthetic?
I think he really digs slashers, like
it's just straight. Okay.
Yeah. So there's not tension like that. It's more, it almost psychological to me. So I could see that if you're looking for the, intense violence and brutality, it's not shot like that or cut like that.
And you're not going to find that like in a supernatural horror or something like that.
Yeah. Typically not. There's a couple, but then it's borderline. Then it's what type of movie is it? Like Alien, which is a horror movie, but it deals with sci-fi. But most sci-fi to me is horror as well. So.
And then, interestingly enough, what's the big standout to me, obviously, which is not common for Raimi, was the underlying message of this film.
Should I say it? Eating disorders, right? Right? Anorexia, bulimia, and it's about eating disorders, isn't it? All the stuff with the food and the mouth and the barf and it's like, it's about eating disorders, which is cool.
The constant references to her weight loss and how much hard work she's put in.
I don't know if that's what he intended or whatever. And that's what's beautiful about movies, is it's what it means to you and your interpretation. But it's hard not to say like, this is about eating disorders.
That's exactly what we were talking about. You actually just jumped the script on that, because that's exactly what we had discussed about the underlying message of this.
I didn't jump the script. I was trying to cue to Eugene.
No. I'm saying McClain jumped in without even knowing.
Yeah.
He had no idea.
I killed your moment. I killed it, man.
No, he had no idea that's what we were going to bring up. That's what we had already discussed. So
it just feels that way. It's not about the devil. It's not about. I don't see there's a lot of cultural stuff, a little bit at the beginning with the gypsies and the bank and all that, but that's all superficial. There's nothing there really. It's the eating disorder in America as a girl. You know, it's got to be tough. I have a
it has
cousin
to
who
be
dealt with
because
it, and it's awful. She almost died. It's tragic, you know. So I took from that while I was watching that first time, like, oh, it's about food.
no, that is exactly what it is. Is because women are so judged on their looks. On it as men, we're not sure. A guy can be handsome, whatever, but women are solely, or not solely, but primarily judged on their looks, and that leads to unhealthy things like eating disorders, that stuff that weighs women down, and it can be really difficult to deal with. And it's shitty that society is like that, and it shouldn't be, because everybody has their own individual worth, but it is a part of society. And the great thing about horror is you can bring up stuff like that. Like, you actually can. You can bring up real issues that other genres like comedies or whatever just can't, or our comedy has to make fun of it or anything like that. But this can kind of go dive into it deeper and in a more impactful way.
It's fun to look at horror movies and try to find one that doesn't have context to it, that there isn't an underlining metaphor or statement. You can just start from the Wolf Man to Dracula and Frankenstein. The Wolf Man was written by a Jewish man, and then from there it's like, oh, okay, outsider who's Jewish, and he's different. Frankenstein as well with Mary Shelley. Dracula is a foreigner, right? No, it's just like The Night of the Living Dead clearly is a political movie, and it's hard to find a horror movie that doesn't have some sort of other meaning, if you will. And at least Drag Me to Hell sure feels like it's a statement about American values that we
well, you can't
kind of inflict on women, which is really
coupling it when the film came out. It was this was 2009. So what happened in 2008? So you had the 2008 crash of the housing market.
Oh,
and
sure.
then we kicked this movie off with an old woman in distress over her home.
Sure.
So we've already set the stage of like the evil corporate entity, or the evil bank entity, and of course the young woman who is trying to fight her way in a man's world. Is like, well, if you're able to make hard choices, you can get a promotion. I have to make hard choices. And then, of course, her image issues and the way she thinks her boyfriend views her, the way she thinks the world views her, the way she views herself, and the fact that she already has low self-esteem because of her weight and all the shit she went through. And then the guilt on top of this of having to deny this woman and putting herself ahead of another person's well-being. I think it's plain as day that this was
plain as apple pie.
Plain as apple pie. This was a commentary on America. Interesting that it came after his work with. I don't know. I didn't read the script for this before. Obviously, they said that they wrote it before Spider-Man, but there have been stories about Sam's interactions with the studio, and how he's really more kind of an indie guy that, kind of like Romero. Romero, didn't like dealing with the studio after Monkey Shines, and he was just like, I'm done with this bullshit. And I imagine a similar experience with Sam and with Sony, because I've heard horror stories of dealing with Sony Pictures. And there's kind of a thing here. These faceless entities that kind of like decide what we can do and what we can't do, and they have no consideration for what we're trying to do, whether we're just trying to get by on a day-to-day basis or we're trying to make something that people will love. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it felt very much a comment. I very much felt a commentary there, just like Kevin Smith and Tusk. Now, Tusk was a silly fucking movie based off a goddamn podcast about turning Justin Long into a fucking Michael Parks turning Justin Long into a walrus. On its surface, yes, but the film also came out shortly. Obviously they discussed on the podcast what would they do this, but there's a linking feature there because Kevin Smith always had major issues with his weight, and this all took place after Too Fat to Fly, after his issue with Southwest Airlines. So. And then the whole film felt like Kevin Smith's commentary on viewing somebody in this capacity and viewing them from basically looking at somebody and boxing them in as a particular thing. And it just happened to be a walrus. So,
Could have been anything.
I mean, I'm not saying it's causation. I'm saying that there seems to be an odd amount of correlation there, and it really stuck. I mean, it really cemented "Drag Me to Hell" in my mind as probably maybe tied for first with his best film, because whereas Evil Dead was frenetic and wow, like really pushed, it broke boundaries with that one. Evil Dead 2, campy horror, like, and then Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell just leading that thing like a boss. Huh? I fucking love that moment. What? You want to say something? Huh? I fucking love Bruce. But this one, I felt like he had something to say.
Yeah.
And I always love movies where the director's got something to say, because that's art. Just like Chasing Amy will always be my favorite Kevin Smith film, because that movie, he had something he wanted to say. And that's what I got from Drag Me to Hell. And I think everybody was on board, which is why the performances were magnificent. And then the gruesome gore, fuck, dude, some of it's kind of queasy-inducing.
The ending.
You get turned off by the weirdest shit, dude.
It's always a particular type.
And no, and it's like it's always something weird. You're like, that was kind of queasy. Like, I don't feel that same way with this movie.
Well, some of it's
other
kind of
movies
like,
that I could have been like, that was
some of it I'm
probably
kind of like, oh, that's gross. That's kind of disgusting. Dead Alive is the only one that has ever made me physically ill. Dead Alive made me physically ill.
I don't understand.
When the mother's at the dinner table and the fucking ear falls off and she just
I thought it was hilarious.
I mean, but it was prefaced. There was things going into it. The look of the fucking custard on the table was fucking gross. Popping her or squeezing her wounds out on it. That was disgusting. And then the fucking ear falls off. I was like, oh my God, I can't take it. I almost fucking threw up. It's so gross.
We have watched some of the most fucking gut-wrenching shit and talked about it on this podcast, and you're like, an ear slid off, and that was like the worst moment.
That was the worst one. Yeah,
I watched a Serbian film, and it didn't bother me like that fucking ear.
How? Fuck.
I don't know what it was. It was either the coloring or the.
Let's talk about Cannibal Ferox, but fucking Dead Alive.
We'll bring in Audition too. So
I had no problem with Cannibal Ferox, making a cereal bowl out of his fucking head. I had no problem with Audition and a newfangled uses for piano wire. I got no problem with that. Get it. The fucking ear scene. The cat. Oh God, the cat. What the fuck? What? It was the dog. It was the dog. When she's pulling the fucking dog out of her mouth.
Yeah, it's the dog.
What the fuck?
I've got that in VHS as well. That's a classic.
Oh.
We're all going over to your house.
That was one. That was an underground. That was an underground hit. If you had that, it was like, oh, because I think I have the uncensored version too, which is you always wanted the uncensored version.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially Scarface as well.
Even the Fede Alvarez continuation, when Mia jumps on top of her and she's just like blah like that, and then they added the chunks in there just to be really effective.
Well, yeah.
And there's so much of that. Even that didn't get me. I was
the ending in this movie is really cool. The digital effects that they did, because that could have been really hokey.
Oh, yes.
And it still holds up.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really cool. That was the ending you don't really see coming either. It's like,
who didn't see it coming? It surprised me.
I'll tell you, I did not see it coming.
Once it was happening, you're like the button.
We're able to put it together. We're able to put it together at the same time she's putting it together.
Correct.
It's kind of like, I love the timing. It was like, oh, son of a bitch, and then he pulls it out. It's like, look at this. Oh my goodness. And then he doesn't know. We know. She knows.
We know. She knows.
And so she falls down on the tracks, and then it's like as a the viewer, or if you were there in real time, it would just be someone committed suicide or whatever. So
and then Justin Long watching the whole thing take place and then you could just see him rolling sanity checks. Yeah. And then she's gone, and then that's it.
Yeah, great ending.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Oh.
Oh shit! Whoops.
Bruce Willis is dead.
What? No.
All right, but Jay,
that was in Scrubs.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is a ghost. He's been dead the whole time. It's like, what? No.
missed that show.
Oh.
But JL, did you get your answers question or your answers question? Did you get the answers to your questions in this movie?
What do you mean?
There was like a lot going on, and then like you said, the end. But do you think there's room for expansion in this?
I mean, you mean expanding upon the actual story itself? I like it as it is. I really do. I think it's a very nice and closed story, and kind of like the Sam Raimi universe. I don't think he intends to expand upon it. I mean, we've got Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and then Ash versus Evil Dead. Magnificent fucking series. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I like this as kind of like a part of it, but another separate story. I think that's really, really cool. And I dig it so much just because I think for this particular one, Raimi had something to say. Like this was personal for him, which I think gives it all the more weight. And then of course, we got Sam Raimi back to his classic form with Ash versus Evil Dead, which is a lot of fun. So I mean,
with all the stuff that he's going on, I think that this was kind of like you said, it was kind of like his baby. It was like his mind child, if you will. And definitely something that I'd like to see him go back to, with all his big stuff going on. But I'd like to see more of this kind of film from him.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely,
for sure. That's something I'd like to ask the audience. Should Raimi expand the Drag Me to Hell story? Should it go farther than this? Should he move out from this story, or should we kind of stick to the same line here and move? This could be kind of like his side piece.
Strange.
That would be cool. I think it's definitely expandable. You could
you could go in so many different ways.
You
could go pre, you could go C, you could go, you could go parallel with this even if you wanted to.
And it's just expanding. It's not necessarily like a prequel or sequel. It's expanding. I like it when you have directors like Sam Raimi that have something to say. Like, what else? What other points does he want to make out?
Keep talking.
Yeah.
What were you saying, McClain?
I was going to say he should bring in Darkman. Just randomly have him come in.
I'll play. Johnny O saying, leave the story alone. No more. Don't need to expand it. And
it's a standalone. It's a standalone.
Yeah, I definitely.
It's great.
That's when Johnny's like, nope, it's okay. Just leave it.
Leave it be.
Johnny knows what's up. Johnny, you the man.
Johnny knows way more than
definitely let us know what you think. Do you think this movie should be expanded? Do you want it to be? Do you think Sam Raimi should return to this part of the kind of like the Raimi verse? Let us know in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Eugene, it is that time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, it is time for the trivia question. The part everybody's actually been waiting for.
It's what they
trivia.
They endure our bullshit so that they can get free shit at the end.
Yes.
Can I help or no?
And what are we giving away?
Well, you fortunately have elevated us. You've elevated us above the normal shit that they have to do.
Elevated horror. That's me, man.
But the prize we're giving away, and unfortunately, it was delayed in shipping, which really annoys me because it was being shipped to my house. So I don't have it here to show you, but we are giving away a Funko Pop Jack Torrance from The Shining.
That's pretty dope.
Cool.
So that will be the prize tonight for whoever gets.
That's pretty cool. It's not a t-shirt.
Whoever answers, I wish I could show it to you. There, you can see it online, but I will have it here, and this way it will be shipped out to whoever gets the answer to tonight's trivia question. Good, take it away, Eugene. Oh, Poe.
All right. The trivia question is, what number was the room in which Jack Torrance met the bathtub woman? I'll repeat it. What number was the room in...
No, go, keep going. Keep going,
Okay.
Eugene.
What number was the room in which...
It's the movie. Yeah.
Oh, what, the movie?
Movie.
It's the movie, not the book. It's the movie.
Because they're two different. The book's a different number.
Oh, the movie.
I can tell you why if you want me to nerd out.
In the movie. Okay. In the movie The Shining, What number was the room in which Jack Torrance met the bathtub woman? Remember, it is the movie, not the book. What was the room number?
First answer wins the Funko Pop Jack Torrance. Alex, what the fuck are you laughing at?
What?
I just hear you laughing.
It was the whole because the audience can't hear Johnny, and then there's just this. Yeah, I was imagining it. From the,
Yeah, so you just hear me halfway.
I was just imagining from the audience point of view how it
Huh?
sounded.
What?
Well, it's because I hear because
What number?
boom, Mad Mark. Mad Mark has answered correctly.
Who's Mad Mark? Where did he come from?
Mad Mark is new. He's new to the Discord server. Oh, he's been in the Discord server for a while, but I think this is his first live stream.
Oh my gosh! Welcome.
Yes, a
Nice,
brand new winner.
nice.
What's the
It's
question
not-
mark? You nailed it.
Oh yeah, it's not PhD Tony winning it all.
Thank God.
We have a new winner.
Congratulations.
Yes. And
Mark,
the
you got
answer is room 237.
NANA
How
would
did
like
we
to
not
submit.
have it?
NANA would like to submit 8675309.
Hey, can I be honest? Somebody in my neighborhood was looking for the number for HOA, so I just punched in 8675309 on Facebook, and he's like, "What's the area code?" And I felt really bad.
Well, congratulations to Mad Mark. You have won the Funko Pop Jack Torrance from The Shining. I will shoot us your shipping details. Either message us on the Discord channel or you can email us them at weekinhorror@gmail.com. We'll get that out to you ASAP. And yes, Sean, 137. It was room 237. And same goes Jinju also got it. So, but yep, congratulations to Mad Mark. Fantastic work.
Way to go.
I was really terrified. I thought we gave it away because we mentioned 237 a few times in the show.
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, right at the beginning when we were talking about The Shining. Hold on, I want to know what the lore is behind 237.
So the Timberline Lodge, where they shot the exteriors, which most people confuse as being in Colorado, is actually in Oregon. And they didn't know this movie was going to be what it was. And they have that room, and they asked them to move from 217, right? Is that the 217?
Yeah.
And so they missed that where they didn't want people asking for the room. And now in hindsight, it was the dumbest move they could have ever done. So it's actually the Timberline Lodge in Oregon made them change the number so people wouldn't request it there. But if you go to the Estes Park at the Stanley, you can stay in 217. It's booked out for years though. So
That's crazy.
That's pretty badass.
Yep. And they tried to shoot. Kubrick tried to shoot there, and he zoomed out, and you could see homes in the back, and so they moved it. It's right on the edge of Rocky Mountain National Park, and Stephen King, as you guys probably know, was driving home. He was a teacher in Maine, and got the idea. He pulled in there, and they're like, "Yeah, this is our last day. We're about to close," and they like, "We have a haunted room," and he was like, "Oh, okay," and then
Nice.
he put the hotel up on the top of what's called the Trail Ridge Road in the book, which is not reality. There is a little cafe up there or whatever. But yep, the Timberline Lodge did not want people requesting that room, so they totally blew it. And when you walk in as well, it's totally jarring because like the foyer is about 15 feet by 15 feet. That's a little different from the movie.
Definitely.
You walk in, you're like, they didn't shoot anything here other than the exteriors of the front. Even the back was on set. That was on the lot. So
Nice.
they don't make movies like that anymore. To build that set like that is incredible, and that's based off the Ahwahnee, which is in Yosemite. The inside of the hotel, when you do go into the Ahwahnee in Yosemite, it's like, oh, this is The Shining. It's like, yeah, this is where they based The Shining off of. So
Awesome.
nerd.
No, it's awesome. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
But visit both. You can stay at both. They're great hotels. At Estes, Stanley Park, or Estes Park, Stanley, and the Timberline in Oregon. So
Check them out.
it's cool.
All right, McClain, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Anything coming up that you can tell us about, or social media where our listeners can follow you at?
Yeah, I'll just go through the list. We have our website, and you can check and see what festivals we're in and whatever, and you can get online, and most of the festivals are online, so you can have an opportunity to watch the Telltale Heart. But we're at telltalemovie.com for our website. Our Facebook is Telltale Heart Movie. Our Twitter is Telltale Film. Our YouTube is The Telltale Heart Short Film. And our Instagram is Telltale Movie. I would have got all of them in one, but I couldn't. So.
We dropped the
That
link.
name's already taken.
We dropped a link in the description to your
great.
website. So
great.
The
and the website has links to everything. We're on SoundCloud and a number of other kind of weird sites. But we interact with everyone. You can drop us a line. We will respond. And we're very active on social media. And social media has been very beneficial, including this. I wouldn't have been doing this. And I really appreciate you guys bringing me on here. And I met you guys through social media. It's a really cool world where you can reach out across the world and find, people that have similar tastes. And it's really cool seeing you guys doing something like this, taking something like the pandemic and, parlaying it into something that's positive. And then it's also been very beneficial to y'all. So that's very cool. And I give you guys kudos. And I'd like to thank Johnny for everything. It was great. And just everybody, it was very cool. The movies, I hope you all go check these out. And if you want to check out my movie as well, but JL, Alex, and Eugene, and Johnny, thank you again. And Weekend Horror, appreciate y'all.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Part of the family now.
Absolutely.
Done. You can't get rid of me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, McClain. It's been an absolute blast. And that will bring another episode of Weekend Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening, and we truly hope that you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we discuss the original Wrong Turn, Cemetery Gates, Insidious Chapter 3, and We Are Still Here. We'd like to send a special shout out to our amazing patrons who have helped us make this show the success that it has become. Glass Monster, James Jones, Alien X Gaming, The Friendly Antinatalist, Joe Knowles, Jeff Roberts, Dark Steve, Commander Darklight, Sarcasm, Crafty Keela, Anthony Purcell, Gavlar, The Hand of Zod, Mike Barrett, Jessica G, Nana, Kyrie, Alexis S, and Jose Olalde. We love you guys so much. Thank you for all you do to support us. Visit us at weekinhorror.net, where you can find links to all of our episodes, our bios, our merch store at Teespring, and of course, enter your email for a permanent entry to win a mystery horror shirt every month, courtesy of $6shirts.com. For more horror entertainment, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Week in Horror. Followers get our daily splatter, a bit of horror info every single day, right to your feed. You never know what movies you may discover. Subscribe to our channel and smash that bell like a fucking zombie head for all the latest updates from the show. We really hope you enjoyed this new live format, and we'd love to get your feedback. Be sure to leave us a comment below, as the interactions really help us with the dreaded algorithm. And lastly, if you truly love what we do here and you would like and are able to support our production, you can through our Patreon. We have subscriber tiers as low as $1, bonus and exclusive content, and horror films every month for our higher tiers. However, if you'd prefer, you can support the show through our PayPal as well. Links to all of this, including McClain's website and all of our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are all in the description below. And while this country is finally beginning to recover from recent events, we know that things are still really, really tight for a lot of people. As always, simply commenting, liking, and sharing the show with the friends in your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us continue to grow. We appreciate each and every one of you for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm JL.
I'm Eugene.
I'm Alex.
We will see you all next week, and as always, stay scared.